the arid heat of southern Gaza has hardened. Underneath the rubble-strewn streets of Rafah, once bustling with civilians, lies a shadow labyrinth, tunnels stretching for kilometres, built deep beneath homes, mosques, and even civilian aid compounds. For weeks, the battle for Gaza has moved decisively underground. Now, militants who once operated freely under the cover of darkness and concrete are being forced into the open. Many are being killed or captured. Others remain trapped beneath the ground, and the world watches. In the southern outskirts of Rafah, workers of the underground world thought themselves secure. But in recent weeks, they have found themselves squeezed by aerial surveillance, precision airstrikes, and relentless ground operations. According to the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, hundreds of meters of underground passageways have already been destroyed. More than 60 strategic targets, including tunnel shafts, weapons caches, and militant hideouts, have been struck. Combat teams from the Nahal and Golani brigades have taken a methodical approach. Encircle suspected tunnel zones, cut off supply lines, starve out defenders, flush them out, and then either kill or capture them when they emerge. The result over the past week has been dramatic. Dozens of militants, many attempting to flee, have surfaced, only to be met with firepower or taken into custody. An IDF spokesman describing the operation framed it starkly: "Surrender or we kill them all." The words underscore the determined logic of the campaign. Dismantle Hamas's underground fortress. No negotiation, no safe passage, no ceasefire clause. One captured militant, apparently among 15 who tried to escape a tunnel last week, told interrogators directly that the decision to emerge was driven by desperation. "We came out because there was no water," he reportedly said, describing a frantic scramble for survival that ultimately failed. Even as Rafah's tunnels collapse one by one, the fighters still sealed underneath make headlines. Recent intelligence suggests that anywhere between 100 and 200 Hamas operatives remain hidden in isolated pockets of Rafah's subterranean expanse. Their status uncertain, their survival precarious. For weeks after the ceasefire first came into effect, these militants avoided surrender, refusing repeated calls to exit. According to Israeli military sources, a proposal was conveyed to senior Hamas officials. Emerge, surrender your weapons, and relocate to Israeli prisons, with the chance perhaps for eventual relocation and release. But Hamas leaders do not appear to have accepted. The offer expired. Instead, many fighters chose to remain underground. As an Israeli official put it, "It appears they have decided to become martyrs." What exactly these tunnels represented and why dismantling them matters has become clearer over recent days. According to military intelligence and international analysts, the network under Rafah was not just a fighting trench or a hideout. It formed part of a route tunnel system, a sprawling underground infrastructure, several kilometres long, reaching 20-25 metres deep, with dozens of rooms and chambers used for weapons storage, command and control, logistics, manufacturing, and shelter. In recent video footage, released by the IDF, soldiers walk through reinforced concrete passageways, some with makeshift bunkers, storage rooms, and what appear to be living quarters. According to one analysis, this was among the longest and most complicated tunnels discovered in Gaza. The discovery and destruction of these tunnels represent a strategic blow to Hamas, eliminating much of its capacity to coordinate large-scale attacks, hide weapons, and smuggle fighters or hostages. Analysts say dismantling a route tunnel of this scale could sever dozens of tactical satellite tunnels, command networks, and logistics hubs. A senior military commander on the ground, speaking amid the ruins, summed up the mood plainly. The time for subterranean refuge is over. The message was clear: emerge or die. The past week's operations have inflicted heavy casualties on Hamas's underground forces. Reports vary, but IDF statements indicate that at least 20 operatives were killed and 8 others captured as they attempted to flee the network. On one day alone, 4 gunmen were killed and 2 arrested after emerging from underground routes. A dramatic example occurred when an Israeli airstrike targeted a group just as they tried to surface, followed by Nahal Brigade troops storming a nearby building and eliminating several armed militants while arresting others. One senior Hamas operations commander, described by the IDF as significant, was reportedly eliminated in these counter-tunnel sweeps. The pattern is relentless. Each tunnel exit yields either firearms and militants or empty tunnels leading only to collapsed shafts. The message from the Israeli side remains categorical. The underground era ends now. As Israeli forces erase the subterranean lifelines of Hamas in eastern Rafah, Parallel plans are being laid above ground, plans that could reshape Gaza's future. According to a report published just this week, construction is set to begin shortly on the first housing compound on the Israeli-controlled side of Gaza, east of the Yellow Line. These so-called alternative safe communities, part of a broader resettlement vision dubbed New Gaza, are designed to house 25,000 displaced Gazans. Facilities are planned to include clinics, schools, and basic infrastructure. The first such compound is slated for Rafah, close to the Egyptian border. Behind the plan is an effort to stabilise the territory Israel now controls. After the establishment of the Morag corridor in April 2025, a security zone cutting across southern Gaza designed to partition the strip and restrict militant mobility, Israeli and US officials believe the ground is now cleared to start reconstruction and resettlement. In the logic of these plans, once tunnels are destroyed and militants eliminated or captured, the land becomes safe for civilian use. The land is clear now, one senior official reportedly said. We can start building, we don't need to wait for phase 2 on our side. But the project faces serious questions. The planned compounds, even if fully built, would house only a fraction of Gaza's population, which numbers in the low millions and has been massively displaced since the start of the war. Many Gazans may refuse to live under what they perceive as Israeli occupation, especially given the suffering and destruction they associate with Israeli operations. As one Arab diplomat quoted in the report put it, convincing Gazans to move into compounds under Israeli control is fantastical. Moreover, there are concerns about freedom of movement. Would residents be allowed to leave later? Would Israel vet potential inhabitants? How would property owners be compensated? These variables remain unresolved. The dismantling of the Rafah tunnels signals what many analysts call a turning point, not just in the war but in Israel's broader Gaza strategy. For months, the conflict was high above ground. Airstrikes, infantry raids, civilian displacement. But by embedding itself underground, Hamas forced a brutal evolution in combat. Now, with those channels collapsing, the war is shifting yet again, this time toward recasting Gaza itself. Officials involved in the New Gaza planning appear confident. The demarcation known as the Yellow Line, now controlling roughly 53% of Gaza's territory under Israeli control, offers physical and legal space to rehouse and reorganize parts of the strip. From the Israeli and Allied perspective, rebuilding Gaza, or at least establishing new population centers under stricter security control, could serve multiple goals. Eliminate the threat from militant tunnels, prevent the re-emergence of militant infrastructure, create jobs through reconstruction, and reduce the humanitarian burden by relocating displaced civilians into organized, monitored communities. For Gazans, the picture is far less clear. Thousands are still displaced, and returning to their former homes, many destroyed or heavily damaged, may not even be feasible. The alternative communities might offer a measure of shelter and services, but at the cost of living under what many perceive as occupation and security oversight. And for a population traumatized by decades of war, that trade-off may be unacceptable. Inside Rafah's collapsing tunnels, the stakes are life and death. For the militants still trapped, every hour could be their last, as supplies dry up and IDF pressure grows. For families above ground, each destruction, each airstrike, each forced displacement carries the weight of trauma, loss, and uncertainty. And now, above ground, the plan to construct New Gaza looms, a vision of rebirth built on the ashes of war and ruin. Housing compounds, clinics, schools. A chance for Palestinians to resettle, rebuild, survive. But under what conditions? Under whose control? And with what guarantees of dignity and freedom? The coming weeks will be critical. If militants continue emerging, the tunnel war may soon be over. But whether Gaza emerges from this conflict as a stable territory with prospects for reconstruction, or as a divided land under strict security control, depends not just on bombs and battalions. It depends on politics, decisions, and the will to build, or rebuild, on terms acceptable to the people who call Gaza home. Because in Rafah, and in Gaza at large, the war is no longer only about who controls the sky. It is now about who controls the ground, and who controls the future.